Welcome everyone to our Fireside Chat. Fusion is the new F word. And Fireside Chat, aptly named, I suppose, but I'm really excited to be here with our guest today, Commonwealth Fusion Systems, or CFS for short. My name is Kristen Berke, and I head up content partnerships for LA Times Studios, and I'm going to let my esteemed guests introduce themselves.
Wow, cool. Thank you. You forgot, Kristen, by the way, it's HotAF. Fusion is the new F word.
Oh my God, I forgot the best part.
It's so hot in here that we're talking fusion.
Yeah. But I wanted to leave that for you to say.
Thank you. Hopefully my mom's not watching. So my name's Joe Paluska, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Commonwealth Fusion Systems. We are the world's largest fusion energy company. We're a spin out of MIT, founded in 2018. And we're building this machine called Spark outside of Boston, and we'll turn it on in 2 years, in 2027. Jennine.
Hello. My name's Jennine Willett. I'm the creative director for Commonwealth Fusion Systems. I come from a background in immersive storytelling and experiential storytelling, so my job is telling the world why they should care about fusion and what it is.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Okay, so my first question is actually for the audience. You guys get to participate in this. Please raise your hand if you guys know what fusion energy is. Anyone? Okay. All right. I don't know. That's better than I thought it was going to be, actually.
That's pretty sad.
But it's better than none.
Yes, true.
It's better than none. Okay, and for those of you guys that raised your hands, do you think you could explain what fusion energy is to everybody else in the audience in relatively simple terms, like a few sentences? No. Okay. One person. All right, we had some drop off there. So I wanted to start this conversation today with that question because that is essentially what our guests are tasked with every single day, is how do I distill this very complicated topic of fusion energy to the masses? So I think a really good place to start is, can you guys just explain what fusion energy is for those that are not aware?
So every day you walk outside and you enjoy the sun that's on, and you enjoy the stars. Fusion energy is the power of the sun and the stars. Basically, it's limitless, it's clean, it has no byproducts, and it's safe. And it's something that the universe runs on all the time. So what bringing fusion to the Earth means is building a machine that actually creates a star and holds it inside. And that is in the form of a plasma, which we all know what plasma is. When you see a lightning storm, you see plasma or a neon sign. Basically, a machine such as this can actually hold plasma using magnetic fields, really strong magnetic fields that protect the plasma from the atmosphere outside, but also control the plasma and how it moves inside the machine. That plasma happens to be over 100 million degrees, hence the HotAF. It's really hot, and it can create energy, limitless and abundant energy.
I think we know that fusion energy has been around for over 100 years, right? At least this concept of fusion has been around for 100 years. So can you guys talk a little bit about why fusion energy has become so hard to reproduce at scale and is not currently readily available to the masses?
Yeah, you make a good point. Basically, what's wild is up until 1920, society thought the sun burned coal, right? And in 1920, a English physicist named Sir Arthur Eddington first posited that what was powering the sun is this process called fusion. So basically combining two hydrogen molecules, not splitting them like in fission. And so what has happened in the past 5 to 10 years is a bunch of capital has flown in. About $9 billion has been poured into about 40 fusion startups around the world. And what's happened with our company is there's been advancements in material science, and with the use of AI, of course, you can model how these machines are going to work. And so now's the time for fusion to happen, and it's critical because you may have read the headlines from a few weeks ago. The global scientific community has said we're going to skate past the 1.5 degree scenario. Sure, it feels like we skated past it today, how hot it is in Cannes, France, but we're going to skate past the 1.5 degree scenario in a couple of years, not 2050. So we need to get fusion power plants out the door as soon as possible if we're going to bend the curve and reduce the impacts of climate change.
Absolutely. And can we just take a step back? Because I feel like that was a really good primer for what fusion energy is and why this is such an urgent topic. But can you guys talk a little bit about who CFS is and the origins of the brand and how it's evolved over the past few years?
Sure. So we're like I said, we're a spin out of MIT, founded in 2018, founded by 6 plasma physicists. And in fact, the MIT program got defunded by the government at one point. So it later got refunded, but the co-founders didn't want to have to rely on government funding to basically make their dream of commercial fusion happen. So over barbecue and beers at this place called Stubbs Barbecue in Austin, Texas, they hatched up an idea about if they could raise $100 million, they could build one prototype magnet, because our machine's made out of magnets, superconducting magnets. And so if they could raise $100 million, they could build one magnet. They built one magnet. It's like the size of like your dining room table. I've not seen your dining room table, but I assume it's normal size. So they built one prototype magnet, tested it in 2021. The magnet was so strong that it could lift an aircraft carrier out of the water, which is crazy. And we raised $1.8 billion in a Series B round, which was the largest Series B at that time.
So exciting. Okay, so can you talk a little bit, because I know we had this conversation when I visited the power plant in Devens, and there's this idea of the holy grail of fusion and what you guys are trying to accomplish. Can you talk about how that powers, no pun intended, powers the company culture there? What does that mean exactly?
I can speak a little bit to that. So the Holy Grail, many people are skeptics around fusion. Even my friends, when I first started saying, oh, I'm working with a fusion company, and they're like, what? Fusion's never going to happen. It's like, oh, really? Well, that's how people have viewed fusion for a long time. There's been breakthroughs in technology. Just like many years ago, I'm sure people said nobody's ever going to fly in an airplane or nobody's going to step on the moon. This is the moment we're in because it's actually going to happen. Like, there are the best scientists, physicists, engineers, welders, the most incredibly talented team of over 1,000 people working 3 shifts a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make this happen. And so it is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of when, and the time is ticking. So this is a moment where we want the world to become a part of it and to watch it happen. Just like, everyone was watching when the first steps happened on the moon. We want people to be watching what's happening because it's going to change humanity. It's going to change the world we live in for the positive. And it's going to be something that's monumental. And we just want everybody to be on the ride with us because once you kind of take a step through CFS, and I think you experienced this, Kristen, when you were there.
Yes, completely.
Just like my first time working with the company and working on a corporate offsite with its employees, I am blown away every day by what they're doing. And every time I get to meet someone and hear about the challenges they're facing and the innovation that they are applying every day, it blows my mind, and I 100% believe in them. They're going to do it because it is a challenge that's unsurmountable, but there are so many phenomenal collaborative people figuring out how to utilize technology that we already have in ways that it's never been used before, and also figuring out how to push us over the edge to see more energy out than energy in.
So we talked a little bit about this on one of our phone calls, but I want to ask it again, now in front of a live audience. And you said time is ticking, but then you also said this will change the planet just now, right? And both of those things are so true. And I had asked you, does it ever feel kind of weighty or heavy? Because, in a lot of ways, the future of our planet sort of depends on the success of your company and fusion coming to fruition in this very meaningful way. So I was hoping you could maybe speak a little bit to that, like how you maintain positivity in light of this huge responsibility that you guys have taken on.
Yeah, we have a really interesting workforce because we have more than 1,000 people, and that spans, like Jennine was saying, blue-collar workers. So we have the best copper welders in the world. We have the best electricians in the world, and then we have PhDs in plasma physics. And I think we have 80 PhDs on our team. And then the age range spans from like the early 20s to like the early 80s. So all these folks are super mission driven and building this machine called Spark that we're going to turn on in 2027.
And can you talk a little bit about how you source your employees? Where are they coming from? Who are these people that are changing the world?
Well, we get a lot of people from like really difficult other missions, whether it's SpaceX or NASA or other deep tech companies, or people who have landed things on the moon, things like that. So we have this incredible group of kind of been there, done that engineers and scientists that the confidence level is through the roof. Like, we don't want to be cocky about it all, but we're just like grinding away trying to get this thing done and get it done on time to basically open up an entire new market and lead the energy transition and solve for climate at the same time.
Yeah. All right, so I think it's fair to say this idea of fusion energy, replacing fossil fuels essentially might be hard for some people to grasp. But how do you go about engaging fans, people like the ones in the audience, and how do you distill this really complicated message for millions of people, that might not understand exactly what this is? I think that's a really good question for this audience in particular, where it's all about branding and marketing at Cannes Lion. I'd love to know how you guys go about that.
So, plasma is invisible. This machine is inside of a giant room with 6-foot walls of concrete. But what we are selling is hope. We're selling climate optimism. We're selling the fact that there is a positivity. There's a positive outlook of what the future looks like. The reality around climate change is that we're going to run out of fossil fuels. They're not abundant. They're going to go away. And also AI, which it's a very hot topic right now, AI requires so much energy that we have an energy crisis. We need more energy than we've ever needed before. Something has to fill that gap. Wind is wonderful, hydropower is wonderful, but what happens when the wind's not blowing? What happens when there's no power? What happens when we have to rely on something that is technology-based and that is abundant and that it can't go out? This is what fusion provides. This is the outlook that we're really selling, is hope and positivity. And also there's an undercurrent of wanting to sell the idea of maybe young people should go into engineering and physics, because this will be an industry in the making that will require many, many people to work in it. And so even as we think about telling people about fusion in general to get them on board, there's also the thought about educating young people, educating middle schoolers, explaining something. We did this on the High Line and at Climate Week. We built tokamaks out of things that I got at Home Depot. And we put, plasma inside with like air clay and, put, of course, like string lights in it, so it became like this little night light. And as we were doing this, we had engineers and physicists teaching the kids about fusion and using this exercise as a way. And to see them light up at the idea of what this is, there's so much curiosity. It's really cool. Like, it's really cool science. It's really cool science that has a great application for the world. It means something and it will impact folks. But also we have to get more people interested, especially the United States. We don't have very many engineers. And it's really inspiring to see engineers, especially female engineers, that are telling these stories and that are out on the High Line, inspiring young people to navigate into scientific fields.
Okay, so let's get technical for a second here. I know everyone was waiting for that, the best part. And you touched on it, and you just touched on it as well, but I'd love if you guys could talk a little bit more about the D-shaped magnets that you are wearing not so inconspicuously on both your shirt and your tattoo.
Thank you.
What makes these magnets so impressive, and why are they such a critical component to the overall tokamak design?
Yeah, so broadly, there's two ways for fusion to happen. There's a laser-based approach where you're zapping like a tiny molecule. That's what Lawrence Livermore Labs in California has successfully done, where more power comes out than in. I think 8 times now over the past 2.5 years. And then the second way is magnetic confinement. So we're building what's called a tokamak. That's the name of the architecture. It's a Soviet word from the 1950s. And a tokamak uses 3 different types of magnets. In our case, they are superconducting magnets. So IBM actually discovered this material in the 1980s called high temperature superconducting tape. And so that you can think of the tape as it almost looks like the cassette tape from the 1980s type style cassettes, right? But it's not. It's a superconducting material, meaning there's zero resistance to it. So we make all of our magnets using this high temperature superconducting tape, which makes them incredibly powerful and smaller, and therefore more economical to build and to invest in, right? So the magnets, the D-shaped magnet is the workhorse of the tokamak, and there are 18 of these toroidal field magnets in Spark, and they're the ones that actually control the plasma and hold the plasma in place. And so what Jennine was describing is we heat the plasma, which is just a few grams of fuel. We heat the plasma to 100 million degrees, which is crazy. And then just outside, the magnets are cooled down to 20 K, which is not absolute zero, but close to absolute zero. So one of our investors is Bill Gates, and he toured our facility last December, and our CEO said to him, "Hey, Bill, it's 100 million degrees in here, and out here it's almost absolute zero." And Bill Gates' response was like, "Not even the universe or the solar system has that large of a temperature gradient in such a small period of space." So the technology is mind-blowing. This machine too, and I always sound like I'm speaking from an alien race or an alien language. This machine has no moving parts. The subsystems that feed the machine have moving parts, but this machine is basically a giant hunking piece of metal designed to control plasma and have the plasma heated up. And once the plasma is heated up, it releases a gazillion amounts of energy. That's a scientific term, by the way.
Yeah.
Gazillion.
A gazillion. And that was a very Bill Gates thing to say. I feel only Bill Gates could have said that. I'm jumping ahead, so I apologize, but you got me thinking, okay, we have this tokamak that you guys are working on. You have this plant in Virginia that's in the works right now. Can you talk a little bit about the scalability of the tokamaks and how you guys kind of plan to roll this out from a nationwide and even global standpoint?
Sure, yeah. I mean, tokamaks are the most scientifically sound, most scientifically proven architectures. And in fact, if you want to geek out, Google a thing called Lawson's criteria, and you'll see the performance of different fusion machines from around the world over time. And you'll see that tokamaks are the kind of the workhorse of the fusion machines. And so what we announced last December is we're going to build our first full-scale power plant, which is called ARC. And ARC will be built right outside of Richmond, Virginia. And then the way we're designing these machines is to be super scalable, super replicable, almost as if it's like a data center or an Amazon warehouse, because Lord knows the hyperscalers and the Amazons of the world can easily stand up and scale data centers and warehouses very, very quickly. And in order to kind of bend the curve on the climate crisis, we need to basically scale up production of magnets and power plants as quickly as possible.
What does as quickly as possible mean? I know everyone's thinking that.
Well, the lesson that and this is going to sound really strange, but the lesson we took from World War II is, if you think about in World War II, like when does humankind or society face an existential threat? And in World War II, it was Nazism and fascism. And so what the West did in World War II was scaled production by 120% over 4 years of tanks, bombers, planes, and fought the Nazis and fought fascism. Well, climate change is equally an existential threat to us. So, like I said, these are just machines, right? So we just need to scale the production of magnets and of power plants as fast as possible to basically turn back time and help improve the overall climate situation.
No pressure, guys.
No pressure.
Okay, so going back to branding and marketing for a second, we are at Cannes Lions after all. So at Climate Week last September, you guys launched a campaign called #PowerMoves. Can you talk a little bit about that campaign and what the strategy was behind it?
Yeah, we launched a campaign called Power Moves because our philosophy is it's about humanity's power move. Because if you think about how technology and fusion in particular can change the trajectory of humanity, Jennine alluded to the Kitty Hawk moment as an example, right? Was the Wright brothers plane the the ultimate plane that became, a Boeing Dreamliner or an Airbus plane, not at all. But so this machine, in fact, will, 100 years from now, people will think, oh, that was their Kitty Hawk moment. And so, because the machine's not going to look the same over time, right? There'll be improvements to it. So we're here in Cannes this week because this whole audience is an audience of storytellers and content creators and creatives overall, and we want the community to embrace our story and help us scale our story, because as your audience poll showed, very few people know about Fusion, and my job is to make sure everybody knows about Fusion.
Okay, so let's talk about Hollywood for a second. Thinking about movies like Mad Max and, this is a throwback, but like Waterworld, like this dystopian future that may or may not actually await us because of the energy crisis we're living through. Can you guys, be honest here? Like, how much of this is truthful? Is there a lot of this that you think is hyperbolic when you see these films and the way that they're portraying this? And why do you think Hollywood gravitates towards that type of movie making?
Ooh. Well, when you look at dystopian films, most of the storylines are about lack of resources and fighting over those resources, whether it's a lack of water or lack of clean air, and everybody's fighting each other and killing each other for those resources. And so that is like, Hollywood's way of expressing the dystopian future and the fact that this is what will happen if we don't have those resources. If we let the planet go, we're going to lose resources, and that's kind of the most extreme way of portraying that. When you think about fusion energy and climate optimism, which I really embrace a lot, and this comes from Emerson Collective, like we had a chance to be part of their climate optimistic science fair, and it was just all about people who are doing something actively to help the planet. And so there's a lot of different approaches that people have around climate change. A lot of it is don't do this, don't do that, don't have water, don't use plastic. It's all the don't. Deprive yourself of all the things in the world. The truth is that's not going to change anything truly. At the end of the day, it's really going to maybe change a little bit. It might make you feel a little bit better, like you're doing something, but it's really not that much actually at the end of the day. And so I think this is where Hollywood is kind of portraying the extreme, because they want maybe people to wake up, or maybe there's something that's kind of compelling about what happens when we get to that extreme, because there isn't a lot of hope out there. And so one beautiful thing, not to pitch fusion energy too much more, but there's the potential for fusion to provide energy that powers your cell phone, for example, or powers your heat in your home or your air conditioning or your chat GPT. But also it can be used for desalinization. So now we can have clean water. Also, fusion power plants are small enough that they can be built anywhere in the world. That's a really big deal. It means that we're going to equalize power, and it's no longer going to be a resource that people fight for. Just like natural resources won't be things that we're fighting for. So we'll be fighting over technology.
Mind you, Kristen, that Tony Stark and Iron Man are powered by fusion, so that is a good story there.
Well, in that case, we need it, obviously. It's the only reason. Okay, so you guys are up for 3 awards here at Cannes Lions in Innovation, Employee Experience, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals categories. Can you talk a little bit more about why you guys are here at the festival, why it was important for you to submit for these awards? Obviously, I think we understand the impact this could have on our planet, but why do you feel like brands and marketers need to be paying attention to this?
Yeah, so I've been in climate tech for the past 15 or 20 years, and it was important to me and to our company that we mainstream fusion. And so, Jennine and I and our team put a lot of effort in trying to be super creative, super innovative in how we tell the story externally. So we don't want climate tech companies to look like these odd ducks, right? We want climate tech companies to feel like consumer brands. And so it was important for us to show up here. Now, what was surprising to us in the innovation category, of the 229 submissions in innovation, there were only 2 climate tech companies. I'll give a shout out to our friends at 12, which is Sustainable Aviation Fuel. So there's 12, and there was CFS out of 229. there needs to be a whole more climate tech submissions next year. I'm going to rally all my friends in climate tech to basically show up and show up differently, because climate tech has to be more mainstream and can't be considered like the stepchild in the family.
Right. Not just relegated to an energy summit where you're talking to essentially an echo chamber, I would assume, right? Yeah. Okay. I would love to know, now that we're talking a little bit more about the marketing side of things, what are some more out-of-the-box ideas you've had to market fusion energy to consumers, or enterprise for that matter? Some crazy, kooky, I know you had some, Jennine. You've had some for sure. Things that have gotten pushed through, and then also maybe things that hit the cutting room floor for one reason or another.
Well, so I'm just going to say that some of these ideas are on the clipboard, so we may get them to happen. We just need to get a little bit better about permitting. But so in London, we had a really great idea where we were doing something at Tobacco Dock, and I don't know if you're familiar with Tobacco Dock. So there was a furnace in Tobacco Dock. So any type of products that came there that were faulty just got incinerated. And so it's like super, super polluted. So we ended up turning it into postcards. So we did get to give it out in some way, but we wanted to make a giant billboard, and it had "Wish You Were Here," like in those extruded letters, and it had Tobacco Dock on it and had Commonwealth Fusion Systems. And so we wanted to cover it in soot, and then over the course of the conference have people cleaning it off with like CFS jumpsuits on. And so we were going to choreograph an entire, sort of uncovering of like the clean future that fusion energy can provide. So that was one that didn't get to happen.
What about the kids?
Okay, we wanted to put out sooty children, and so the Newsies children. So, and we even had some children that were volunteered, but then there were like child labor laws, But anyway, we wanted to dress the children and have them give out the Tokamak Times, and again, like just cover them in soot and have them handing out a fusion newspaper. But that didn't quite happen yet.
But would have been incredibly impactful, I'm sure.
We got shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still time here at Cannes Lions, though.
We'll try something.
Yeah, we'll try it. Okay, and who do you guys want to meet at Cannes Lions this week? I feel like our audience, it's a small but mighty audience in the sense that they can tell a friend who can tell a friend who can tell a friend. So what do you guys selfishly want to get out of this festival so that the audience can help you guys out in any way?
Well, I'd like an invite to the Spotify after party, because I heard those are great. But I'd like to run into my friend.
Same.
I'd like to run into my friend Will I Am, and I know he's going to be here tomorrow. Will is one of the most creative forces that I've ever worked with, and he's also a futurist when it comes to technology. So like running into Will would be a cool thing. We're trying to get him out to our facility in Devon so he can check it out, see what's going on.
My answer is a little broader. I think that this is a great opportunity to meet potential fusion enthusiasts, people who are interested in fusion or maybe are new to it, but who would like to be part of the journey with us. And this is a really creative environment of people who are storytellers and who are the best in this field. So I think it would be great to expand our fusion community and also find ways to partner with other people in finding ways to bring this to the greater public.